This is Vic Patel with Craft Express.
My name is Ashley from Artistry.
It's Gavin, founder, creator of Seps.io, and you're listening to
Two Regular Guys podcast,
Hosted by
Terry Combs RG, Regular Guy,
and Aaron Montgomery.
The place to be for industry news.
The best dad jokes on earth, along with relevant topics to apparel decorators.
Prepare for the wild.
All right, welcome to the show. It is Friday, March 14th, 2025. I'm Terry Combs. You can find me at terrycombs.com.
And I'm Aaron Montgomery from Our Success Group. And at Our Success Group, we like to guide business owners to more clarity and confidence. And honestly, Terry, Two Regular Guys is a huge part of that for me because training and education are pillars of what we do. And today, actually, I'm really excited about today because we get to speak even deeper to my mission and talk about what I would consider an uncommon mindset of really kind of an idea of seeking solutions in troubling times, right? And I think we can all agree there's some interesting things going on out in the world. We'll leave it at that for now. We'll get into that a little bit more later. But I think we've got some really great ideas here coming up on how to find opportunities in these challenges, Terry. But honestly, I can't wait to hear from the regulators too, the people that are tuned in live and listening in to hear some of their thoughts on this as well. And Eric even found some good stuff from a Facebook group. Obviously, Facebook groups are always ripe for interesting conversations. So
Exactly right.
Yeah. We're going to have a great show today, though, Terry.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. Make sure you stay till the very end for the secret sauce. Eric's going to give us 5 simple tips for digitizing lettering. It's a quick overview, but a little technical info and technique should really whet your appetite for creating custom text. And I know that's a big issue for folks, especially folks getting into the embroidery industry. So.
Yeah. So all the folks out there, and even if you're not, right, you're at least related to it. So I think understanding these things can be really important when, you're contracting that out or something like that, right? Understanding this. So I can got a little drool right there. I'm excited about the sauce. It's going to be delicious.
You're 100% correct, though. Even if you don't do these things that we do in the secret sauce, it's good to know because if you're not doing it, you're probably contracting it to somebody else to do it. So it's good to understand it.
100%. Well, Terry, before we get to all the things we've got to cover here, we do have our friends from World Imaging News here, Dan and MJ, and some interesting and exciting stuff happening over there. And Dan and MJ and the whole team over there, they've been doing a great job just kind of keeping the industry informed. Was so excited to hear this new project from Dan when he announced it, and can't wait to hear what they've got for us in the news today, Terry, if you're ready.
Absolutely. Let's hear the news.
Hey there, listeners. I'm Maria Jose Clavijo, broadcasting from beautiful Bogota, Colombia. Welcome to another episode of Two Regular Guys.
And I'm Dan, coming to you from Crestline, California, with the World Imaging News team. We have 2 major stories we will be covering today. One concerns the tariff situation and the impact it will have on Two Regular Guys listeners. And the second is a major distribution upheaval in the screen print market.
Both of these stories, Dan, are very important to the graphics industry. Let's start with tariffs and the impact it may have on the graphics imaging industry.
There's a significant concern about the recent tariff actions and their potential effect on our industry. According to Stephanie Buca, Government Affairs Manager for Printing United Alliance, the Printing United show, President Trump signed an executive order on March 6, 2025, postponing tariffs on goods from Mexico and Canada until April 2nd. Shortly thereafter, more tariffs were imposed on Canada, in fact, almost on a daily basis. Many of us were hoping to preserve tariff-free trade under the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Agreement, that's the USMCA, the successor to NAFTA. But uncertainty remains as the deadline approaches.
That's right, Dan. And here's the important part. If these goods don't meet USMCA's rules of origin, a 25% tariff will still apply. This means businesses importing materials for print production need to exercise caution as April 2nd nears.
That's concerning news. The situation could become even more complex. President Trump has also announced plans for a new round of reciprocal tariffs that include China and the European Common Market. For Chinese imports, the proposed tariffs range from 60% to 100%, while European Union goods could face tariffs of 25% or more. If implemented, these tariffs could lead to substantial cost increases for the printing industry and, more critically, contribute to inflation that would negatively impact the overall economy. This is an issue we should all monitor closely. One final note. When China and the European Common Market are included, I have a great deal of concern for those involved with the DTF market, toner transfer market, and dye sublimation, due to many of the components being sourced from countries with expected tariffs. Prices will go up.
Thanks, Dan. And for our next story, we're covering a major shakeup in the printing industry. Rogue US, GSG, and Grimco have announced a new nationwide distribution agreement.
That's right, MJ. Ever since Grimco acquired GSG, the industry has been waiting to see how this would impact both personnel and distribution. Now those changes are happening.
Exactly, Dan. We're already seeing major personnel shifts at GSG with several high level employees leaving for other companies. There are also rumors of layoffs, and given GSG's strong talent pool, more departures could follow.
Beyond staffing changes, there's also significant disruption in product distribution, especially for screen printing supplies.
Right, GSG previously distributed M&R's DTF and screen printed products, while Grimco has been aligned with Rock US for some time. With this new agreement, GSG and Grimco will now distribute Rock US products nationwide.
World Imaging News even sent out a breaking news alert confirming this shift. The big question now is, how will this affect other US resellers of Rock US?
That's still unclear then, but the impact will be significant. And here's another twist. On the same day GSG, Grimco, and Rock US made their announcements, M&R revealed that NASDAQ will now be their exclusive channel partner in certain states.
MJ, this is just the beginning. With these realignments, we can expect even more industry-wide changes in the months ahead. If you're in the business, buckle up. This is going to be a wild ride. You know, MJ, we've covered several important stories today, as we do every month. To stay up to date on the latest news and trends in digital imaging, please go over to worldimagingnews.com and
worldimagingNewsLatina.com
to sign up for our weekly newsletter, Win Quick News. And that's the Win News, folks. I'm Dan Barefoot.
And I'm MJ.
And until next time, stay healthy and keep smiling.
Manténganse saludables y sigan sonriendo.
Awesome. Well, thanks to Dan and MJ for delivering all that great information. Yeah, I think it's very interesting how everything's playing out. And another reason why I just love that we get these opportunities to hear from these news outlets, right? The perspectives that they bring and the opportunities to see things that maybe we wouldn't see, right? I'm signed up for all their newsletters and you get wonderful information, but to hear it from the source like that, it's pretty interesting. Makes you think differently about things.
Well, yeah, and not only do we get U.S. news, but international news, and what a perfect tie-in to today's show when we talk mergers and consolidation and things like that. So we'll certainly be touching on those things in today's show.
Absolutely. So let's get in contact here. Contact. I don't know why I said it that way, but I was just reading comments and trying to talk at the same time, and trying to rub my belly, pat head, whatever. Regulators, thank you guys for being here, and appreciate you guys saying good morning and tuning in here. We've got Kingsbury Craft checking in this morning, and we've got Chuck Peterson also saying good morning, everyone. We've got Craig tuning in from Boston. And thanks for being here, Craig. And then we've got Rena. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. And then we got Doug Sobel saying good morning. So appreciate you guys getting in the comments already. I'm glad you got your fingers warmed up. Let's keep that going here as we dive into the content today. I'm really, really interested in hearing from the regulators. I got a week off when I was in Irving last week, so I'm jonesing. I need that communication, need that connection.
Not exactly a week off, but yeah.
Yeah.
You're just doing things in a different location. But,
yeah.
And we've got folks from both coasts here. We have Boston, Massachusetts. We got Doug in California. So
Rena over there in California, right? So
yeah, exactly.
Chuck's down in Florida. So we got to, I'm in the Midwest. You're in the mountain zone. Eric is too. We got this whole country covered. Now we're our international friends. We haven't seen Yosta in a little bit. I'll ping him soon.
Well, how can I be in Mountain Time and it's 8:12 and Eric's in Mountain Time and it's 9:12? It's a crazy world.
It's not. I've got the dad joke today, Terry. Can you?
All right. Before we dive in, we'd like to thank everybody for checking out the Two Regular Guys podcast. We need your voices still. We would love to have the regulators participate in our show intros. Go to decorators.ink/intro and read a few sentences and be a part of every show. Don't be left out. We want everybody to be a part of the Two Regular Guys. We're always looking for new guests. So if you or anyone you know would like to join us, go to calendly.com/2, the number 2, regular guys to book a future episode, or email us at info@tworegularguys.com with your show ideas. You don't have to be on if you don't want, if you're a little camera shy or a little microphone shy, but we'd love to have your ideas. If you're listening to the podcast version of the show, we would appreciate you sharing the Two Regular Guys podcast with all of your industry friends so they can become regulators too. We would appreciate you giving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Podcast, YouTube Podcast. Wherever you do your podcast listening, we are there. And if you're watching us live, as Aaron said at the beginning, please join in with your comments and questions about, how the economy is affecting you and your business and what you're doing about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking for solutions here. So now I don't know if my dad joke was just so bad that you wanted to skip it, Terry. But
I'm sorry. I did. I moved right down the.
You were rolling. I like it. But I do have a dad joke, right? We have to keep up with the fact that we do have. All right. Well, let's do the dad joke, Eric. All right, Terry. Well, all this talk about the economy and tariffs and pricing and stuff, right? And gosh, gas bills, electric bills, they're really, really expensive. But have you seen chimneys?
I have not.
They are through the roof.
That was a little bit of, I guess, power and electric joke.
There you go. Eric even got the graphic up for us. I love it. Thanks, Eric. That's cool.
All right. Before we dive in, I'm just kidding.
No, we already did that part. All right. Ramona was worried. She thought she missed the dad joke. So also, Terry, can I give a quick shout out here? I have people sending me dad jokes now. James Ortolani, Jerry Dahlheimer, right? So appreciate that. Keep them coming. And Ramona as well. So I've got a storage bank of them here. We're going to have more dad jokes than we can tell. So by
the way, today is not unusual. It's not the first time that I just jumped ahead.
Hey, I've done it 100 times as well. So, it wouldn't be the Two Regular Guys if we were completely on schedule.
We were typing on my other computer. Are we going to do this part?
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, let's get into the show here, Terry. This is, again, really excited to hear what everybody's thoughts are here. And so maybe let's just start with kind of setting the stage. Kind of where we're seeing things, what's happening in the industry. Maybe let's start with the trade shows. Now, I was not able to attend the Long Beach Impressions show early on in the year, but I have been to a few of the others. Now, I know there's a couple others like ASI and PPAI and some of those. I just got back from Irving, Texas last week, which was a Graphics Pro Expo, Kansas City DAX show. So maybe start there. I know you were out and you and Eric were out in Long Beach.
Yeah,
What was the sense?
if we take it in order, Long Beach was in late January,
Okay.
and there was, first of all, there was concern for all of we vendors, and obviously, I'm sure, concerned by people attending that the Southern California fires, the Los Angeles fires, were happening a week before the show, with that 2 week period before the show, and so we even had concern: are they going to cancel it at the last minute? Because
Yeah.
Aaron, you and I have both experienced either shows canceled beforehand or canceled in the middle of the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
You
so
were there for COVID in Irving, actually.
in Irving,
Yeah.
exactly right. 5 or 6 years ago, and we get the phone call that after the first day, yeah, you guys have to have everything out of your booth by 1 o'clock tomorrow. We're shutting the Dallas County is shutting us down for COVID. I was thinking about our buddy Hawkeye, who was down in Orlando. I don't know, 8 or 10 years ago. With a hurricane coming, and they said, "Oh no, we're having the show."
Yeah.
And then one day in, they said, "Get out, get
Mhm.
everything out."
Yeah.
He's at the airport with 10,000 other people trying to get on a flight to get out of Florida. But
Yeah.
things like that happen. But as for that show, one of the things that we notice is, yes, and for anybody who doesn't know, the Long Beach Impressions Expo show is a national show.
Yeah.
Most of the shows that we go to are regional.
Mhm.
Long Beach show and Printing United are national shows.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't very national because, and this again, we're assuming, and this was us also hanging around the booth, coming up with all the reasons a lot of people weren't there.
Yeah.
But
Excuses or justifications.
justification, exactly right. And but we were saying, you know what? I'll bet people canceled because, and people said this to me too. With all the people out of their homes, are there going to be hotels to stay in, or are they going to cancel my hotel reservation because of an emergency? And and just flying in, wondering if these fires aren't out yet,
Mhm.
and is this going to be, am I going to be sitting at the airport and they say, "Oh, your flight's canceled"? So
Yeah.
there were some folks from around the country, nothing like in the past.
Yeah.
So that really cut into the people attending. I had a seminar the very first day, the very first morning, right before the show opened, in the front row, and she said to me, "I almost didn't come because I'm driving from Northern California and I didn't know if I was going to be able to get here. I didn't know if roads were going to be closed. I didn't know, you know, and so the attendance was low.
Yeah. Yeah.
Add to that, people weren't buying. And that show is, and that's not me being greedy. That's me being, everybody that exhibits at these shows. It's tens of thousands of dollars
Yeah.
to exhibit at a trade show. That our justification is selling, and people were sitting on their hands, and that part we couldn't explain away with fires.
Yeah.
And again, it wasn't just I was in the equipment zone booth, but I was talking to people in other booths because I had time to talk to them, and they were they were saying the same thing. A lot of regular customers that we've already sold to came by to chit chat, but nobody was handing it out. And Aaron, you and I have experienced this. People don't buy at trade shows the way they used to.
Yeah.
When you and I were at US Screen, we would come home with stacks of orders with credit cards, and a lot of people wait a week or so to buy.
Mhm.
Not this time. And so sales were way, way, way down. And of course, we know a lot of people in a lot of different companies, the same comments across the board. I talked to the leasing folks, the same comments, because they're calling me saying, "Hey, is everything okay?" Not a lot of leases came through from that show, and
Yeah.
I've had this conversation 2 dozen times with vendors and leasing folks and things like that. So Long Beach was down, not just because of fires; it was down. So
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
about, how about Dax? How about Irving?
Yeah, I think, kind of can, do the same thing there. So Kansas City had some rough weather forecasts and actually some big weather beforehand. And so the same, and I think the point that we're trying to make here though is just that, right? What are these justifications or excuses, right? Like Doug Sobel, for example, went to the Long Beach show and he says
I
the
saw
show
that.
was yeah, the show was so far away from the fires, it would have been stupid to cancel or not go. And Doug says he had to evacuate and he still went to the show, right? And so, yeah, if you can always find an excuse for not, right? And the same was true of Kansas City and Irving, right? Like, what's going on here? And I think as vendors, right there, you're sitting there kind of trying to justify this, so you feel better about the fact that you're probably, like you said, Terry, losing tens of thousands of dollars, and then the attendees that are coming, they're like, okay, where is everybody, right? And we get into this cycle, and if everybody's sitting on their hands, right, because there also is a lot of economic uncertainty um, going on out there, right, and you had even told us a story about a customer that was hesitant to buy over something I kind of laughed at, but you want to tell that story real quick?
Well, yeah, and it's more than one customer. We at Equipment Zone, uh, myself and Amy, the sales rep that deals national accounts, we've had people say to us, "I'm waiting to buy to see what happens with TikTok." And you did laugh when I told you,
I was like,
but
hold on a second.
and justifiably, because if you base your entire business on one online vehicle, well, guess what? Those vehicles come and go. I mean,
Well,
so
especially since it's one online vehicle that's owned by China, right? Like, wow, you might want to dig a little bit. I mean, I get it, right? People are doing really well on TikTok. It's been really great for them. I don't, it has nothing to do with that. I say more power to you. But if then that causes you to go, oh, I'm not going to, I'm going to sit on my hands. Any other little thing that happens, right? A fire, a snowstorm, economic uncertainty, right? I think
yeah.
I think you're going to find yourself in some difficult situations. Um,
Well, and guess what? Those customers are still there.
yeah, yeah,
They also don't have TikTok if it goes away.
yeah,
They're still
exactly.
there. They're still there.
That's
So,
right. They
if I base
still need what you sell.
my if I based my business on MySpace, man, I would have been in a world of hurt.
No, Terry, no wonder I'm struggling. I gotta go. I thought I didn't update my MySpace page enough. It's still out there, I think, by the way.
No, is it really? Oh, I
I think
wonder if
it's more
I have
for
an
music
account.
people, but maybe that was even 5 years ago. Who knows? But I guess the other thing that we were looking at, right, is Dan and MJ reported on these mergers and acquisitions. You see a lot of that happening. So, before you'd have, when the shows get smaller, right, the attendees also suffer because there's less opportunity to get all the information, right? There's going to be different perspectives the more people you talk to. And when there's a smaller amount of people exhibiting a show, like for example, in Irving, um, I was super excited to finally I'm like, I really have asked people, is sublimation dying? Like, because I've not seen a single sublimation vendor at any of these shows recently. In Irving, I was super excited because JDS was there and Sawgrass. I'm like, I have seen
Oh,
Sawgrass out in forever. I have no idea what made them go to Texas, but so I think when we don't have all the vendors there too, it hurts the attendees because they don't have the perspectives, right? And so it's like, well, if everybody is owned by one, I'm just going to hear that story, right? I need to get multiple things, and so uh, obviously there's a lot happening that we could see as a sign of like, yeah, let's sit on our hands, for lack of a better term here, Terry. But
they were. I'm sorry.
no, go
Let me
ahead.
finish with. Well, I was just going to say there was quite a buzz in Long Beach that a company that you always see there, Lawson, canceled their booth the week before the show. and everybody's like, "Well, is it because of the fires? Is there something going on?" And I actually saw David Landisman, one of the owners, walk by my booth, but I was talking to a customer, so I didn't get a chance to, Aaron, you and I've known the Landis brothers and
Yep.
for 30 years.
Yep.
So I have nothing else. I'd say hello and shake his hand, but I was busy. He looked at me and he could see I was busy and just kept going. And I thought, gosh, I really wanted to ask him, hey, why'd you guys cancel your booth? And come to find out, a week later,
Yeah.
they were in the middle of a merger.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so Lawson merging with Workhorse. And so that was the reason for not being there. And, of
Yeah.
course, we assume a lot of things. And unfortunately, we were all wrong. That never crossed my mind that merger was happening.
Yeah.
And Aaron, with these things happening, mergers and acquisitions, that impact me? Absolutely. I taught screen printing classes for 13 years at Workhorse.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I get the call that, hey, we need to postpone this class.
Yeah.
And then I got the call, hey, we need to cancel this class. And they couldn't tell me why, because it was all top secret.
Yeah.
And, but on the plus, I might have gotten a phone call from our friend David Landisman yesterday. So
There you go. Are you coming
Changed my
to St. Louis, Terry?
to St. Louis? Oh, I don't know about that. As soon as I heard it, I thought, well, they do their own screen printing classes. They do classes in St.
Yeah.
Louis. I don't know since COVID if they still have their location in Atlanta, but I know they were very big on screen printing classes at their Atlanta location. So I thought, well, okay, that's the end of that for me.
Okay.
And but maybe not.
But if you come to St. Louis and you don't, we need to at least go have a beer and a couple chicken wings. I will be very upset. So
Exactly.
just putting that out there. Speaking of that, Kim Johnson says, the memories of Dax, Kansas City. And I feel like I need to, maybe apologize to Kim. I'm not sure, but no, I'm just kidding.
For forcing me to come and sit at the table with them, with all you guys.
Like, come over here, Terry. We were having a good time.
And then talking to Joseph from Magic Touch. What's going on over there?
Martha Taylor says, "Good morning, Aaron. I'm sorry I missed you in Irving. Yeah, sorry I missed you too, Martha. Well, I'll hopefully be back out in Fort Worth so we can connect when I get back to Texas. Great time in Texas as always." Eric says, "I always return to the same thought. We know what will change if we do nothing. We might succeed if we take action." Yeah. So hold that thought, Eric. I want to come back to that because I think that's a really good thought. Let me get Martha's next comment here. She says, "I wonder about sublimation myself. I was disappointed that it was such a small show. There wasn't a lot to touch and feel. The equipment was all big, expensive stuff. The crowd was small." Yeah, the crowd was definitely small. I heard that quite a bit in Irving. So, yeah, and who knows, right? Like DTF is all the conversation, right? Every booth seems to have one now, and that's all interesting. But I think that's been the way it has been for a long time, Terry. We talk all the time about how when DTG came out, right, there was, screen printing's going to die and blah, blah, blah. Now DTF is going to kill screen printing and blah. It's just human nature. We look for the shiny object, but we always come back to Old Faithful, the stable things in our world. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, let's start turning the corner here. We've talked about all of the justification.
Dax, how was the attendance in Kansas City? Because you and I've done those Dax shows and Eric for years.
Yeah. Dax Kansas City. It's interesting because new ownership there, and this is the first year that they're fully on their own. Scott and Margie weren't there, so that was kind of a little tear of the eye, missing them. I love those people. And, but the new group, they're putting in the effort, they're trying hard, they're listening, they're putting in the marketing effort. So I think they did a pretty good job of resuscitating it a little bit. I think there's still a ways to go. That kind of dip from COVID into this transition, there's a lot to make up for there. So my understanding from a vendor's perspective, there were definitely good buyers there. Wasn't a huge amount of traffic, but it wasn't small. There certainly weren't enough vendors there. There weren't, I did not see a single sublimation machine in the building.
I've heard that. about all the shows. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. So that's why I was like so excited to see JDS and Sawgrass at Irving. I'm like, whoa, okay, are they right? But anyhow, yeah. So I think, all in all, everything's down a little bit is, I guess, the way I would look at it from my perspective.
And Aaron, and for anybody who's been in this business a decade or less, we've lived this. 2008 economic downturn.
Yeah.
We I remember for a year and a half, all of us saying, I think the next show is going to pick up.
Yeah.
Or the next show is going to pick up. And back then, we were doing 15, 16, 17 trade shows.
Yeah.
The next show, it's going to happen at the next show.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
No, before that, I was probably not only, like you said, locally 15, 16, but then we were traveling overseas. And so, I had times where I felt like I was doing 30 to 40 shows a month. I'm going, what the heck is going on? And no, that's obviously not true. It just felt that way. But anyhow, I guess, Terry, let's start turning the corner here, though, because again, there are all those justifications, all these reasons that we could sit on our hands. But Eric's comment here, I think, is a great place for us to turn the corner. You kind of said history repeating itself, talking about that. But Eric again said, I always return to the same thought. We know what will change if we do nothing. We might succeed if we take action, right? Like, how are you seeing that, right? And honestly, like you said, 30, 25 years for me, a few more years for you in the space. We've obviously seen this before. How does this breed innovation and disruption?
well, here's what I haven't heard from a single person, that the end buyers are gone. Because and I don't think they are. I think the customers are still there. I think it's the producers, the manufacturers, the local screen printer, the local embroiderer, the local sublimation person is sitting on their hands. I think the customers are still there. Not a single person has told me their business is down. I have a lot of people telling me that I'm working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, producing products. So I think it's kind of like when direct to film came out. The customer was there. The customer is loving it. It's us. We were the ones who said, "Nah, this is just a fad. This is just a a novelty item." And the customer was going, "No, really, I want it. Please sell this to me." I think the customers are still there, unless our listeners, unless the regulators tell me something different. But and here's the other thing we saw in 2008 that we'll see now as well, that the people who were operating on a thread, the thread's going to snap. But they were one disaster away from losing their business anyway, because they weren't doing the things. They were surviving based on the fact that there's so many customers out there that want our product. Even the mediocre decorator was making a living.
Yeah.
and so it's interesting. Aaron, is this a good spot to talk about what Eric found for us?
Yeah, I think that'd be great. Why don't you pull that up real quick, and let me just add one quick thing here, because I think the other part, I agree with what you're saying there, Terry. I'm hearing that same thing, right? The end buyers are not gone. In fact, like you said, a lot of people are working their tails off, and I think what's really happening is they're working their tails off and making less because they're not keeping up with the price increases. I'm seeing a lot of that. I regularly teach a pricing class, and it's always full. And I give them the key, and yet they still are scared of, if I raise my prices, I'm going to lose customers. And I keep going, yes, you want that, right? Like, you do want that, because if you raise your prices, you lose some customers. That gives you space to go. I think we have this need to get everything. And you need to get what's right for you at the price that's right for you and your business. And that's the difference. right?
A blip in the economy just exposes all the things you're doing incorrectly. During COVID, there was a manufacturer that's been around for decades
Yeah.
and sent out an apologetic email saying we have to increase our prices, and we haven't had a price increase in 8 years. And I'm thinking, what? How is that possible? You didn't
Yeah.
have a price increase in 8 years. You were just making less and less and less money until the economy forced you to send out an apology email saying that we raised our prices. Now, interestingly enough, since that email, they've raised their prices 5, 6, 7 times. I don't even remember how many emails I've
Yeah.
gotten,
Yeah.
but I think
They
they
got the
probably
taste of it.
raised
And they're like, yes.
they probably raised the price, and are like, oh wait, that wasn't as painful as we thought it was gonna be,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
maybe oh, this price went up. Let's raise the price. This price went up. Let's raise the price. We're
Yeah.
still selling stuff,
Yeah,
so
exactly. No, I
but
think that's great. And then, yeah, and then Ramona, I love your comment here. Let's hang on to that one for just one second and dig into what Eric had shared with us this morning.
Yeah, Eric found on Facebook, buy, sell, trade screen printing and embroidery equipment. And the question was, why are there so many people closing down shop or getting out of the screen printing business? And too old to coat screens, uh, either don't know how to, somebody goes, either don't know how to run a shop or manage expenses. So good on you.
Yeah,
um, let's see. Uh, they talk about people want 5-star experience at 1-star price. Amen. Truth. Um, I can concur. Let's see.
What-
People
Uh,
want $300 worth of service for $10. And it goes on and on and on and on. Well, guess what? We've heard that 1,000 times. I'm going out of business because of the economy. And people order once and don't come back and reorder. Well, guess what? That's not the economy. That's you.
yeah,
They don't. If somebody doesn't come back and order from you, it's you. It's not the economy.
yeah,
They
yeah,
didn't they didn't they didn't spend $20 on a t-shirt and then go, "Oh gosh, the economy, I don't have an extra $20 to spend." No, you sold them something crappy.
yeah. Well, and
That's why they didn't come back.
can I talk about that 5-star quality at 1-star pricing
Yeah.
idea here? And this is where people miss it, right? This is exactly what I'm experiencing in my pricing seminars. People, we want to blame somebody else, right? Like you were just saying, it's not the economy. It's not like we always want to blame somebody else because that takes the onus off of us. And as business owners, we have to take 100% responsibility. And once you do that, everything changes because it's not that they want 5-star service at a 1-star price. They want 5-star service and they want to pay what they feel that value is for that, right? And so if that's to you a 1-star price, then that's on you as the business owner to make sure they understand the value. People will pay whatever they need to pay within their whatever their set point is for what they think the value of that product or service is, right? We see it all the time in the way people are pricing things. Like, well, why can somebody else somewhere else get X amount for this when you say you can only get this? It's the way that you're talking about your product. It's the way that you're addressing it. Like, we have to, as business owners, stand firm and say, here's what I offer. Right? I think the first mistake that we make is we make price the first part of the conversation.
Mhm.
And so anyhow, I could be on the soapbox for a really long time, Terry, but the idea here that somebody else wants 1-star pricing, that's not true. They're just going to pay what they think it's worth. Your job is, if you think you're giving 5-star service, then you better explain that to your customer so they understand why the price is what it is.
And you think it's worth that $10. It's not your customer. And brief story, Aaron.
Okay.
I was I was at a trade show once, and a gentleman came up to me, and I was talking about DTG printers, and he goes, in my town, we always know what's going to happen
My
after we hear
favorite.
it.
Yeah.
My town, you can't get more than $15 for a DTG printed shirt. I looked at his badge and I said, "You're from Columbus, Ohio." He goes, "Right." That's the largest city in Ohio. A lot of people don't know that, but I went to school in Ohio, and so he's like, "Yeah, largest city in Ohio." My friend, you're talking to the wrong people. If you think that a DTG printed shirt, you can only get $15 for it in Columbus, Ohio, you are absolutely talking to the wrong people, because there are decorators in Columbus, Ohio right now today, probably getting $25 or $35 for that shirt. Aaron, we were just talking a couple of weeks ago about Johnny Cupcakes.
Yep.
His t-shirts are $45 and he sells out. He only runs so many and he sells out every week.
Yeah.
It's
And
in your brain.
and if you look at the t-shirts, like they're not like these are not like all over prints, full color, blah, blah, blah. I mean, 2-color screen printed shirts for $45.
Right. With a cupcake on
No
it.
customization. Like, I mean, with a cupcake and a skull and crossbones, and
Right.
yet people are tattooing that on their bodies. So
Right.
right.
You better never go out of business, because those people are going to have to be explaining the rest of their life what it means. There used to be a guy that sold t-shirts.
He went out of business, but I have his anyhow.
The guy died years ago. Sorry, Johnny. I'm not wishing any ill on you.
Yes, yeah, he's a great guy. We've got a chance to meet
Absolutely
him.
great guy.
Awesome guy. All right, well, let's again keep turning the corner here, right? So we went from here's what kind of the challenges are. Here's kind of the different way of thinking about the opportunities. But how can we get to that point where let's actually start talking about solutions? And Ramona started us off here, and she says, I think as a producer, this is an opportunity for us to market ourselves. The craft of the industry, buy local campaigns are big right now. Get yourself out there and let the world know that you are there. Right. And I'll pop that up there real quick. And so Terry, what are some other, how can we stay strong and create more market share for ourselves here?
Well, first of all, is sometimes when life is good and business and everything's thriving, it's easy to get fat and happy, and maybe you haven't updated your equipment. Maybe you have a couple of employees that are just kind of getting by, but they get stuff
Brains.
done, and
Yeah.
so maybe this is an opportunity again. Tighten your belt a little bit, and take a look at your business. What can you do more efficiently? And I have never, and I've been in shops that have one person. I've been in shops that have 500 employees, and I've never walked into one of those shops, but more than a couple of hours before I saw something that would make them more efficient about what they do.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of back when I was doing a lot of consulting work. Is every shop, every business has room for improvement. And I've never walked into one and said, this is the most efficient shop I've ever seen. You're good to go. Don't pay me, because everything you're doing is just right. We can all be our own consultant and take a look at our business and say, well, where can we improve what we do? So that's on the back end. On the front end, and I loved when Ramona said, get out there and be seen. Go out and do some on location decorating. Maybe even an embroiderer can have a one head machine. I'm sure Eric is shaking. He's shaking his head. Yes. What?
He agrees with you.
I'm kind of misty, Eric. I don't think I'm shaking your head yes, that's something I've said. But it reminds me of, and I think I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, Printed Threads down in in Fort Worth. Before COVID, and now I think they've started it up again, where they will go to a bar that has live music, because they're all rock and roll guys. Well, welcome to the club, screen printers, rock and roll guys. But they would actually set up a screen printing press and a little dryer at a bar, and while the band's playing, they're printing shirts with the lyrics to the songs on them. And then you buy the shirt, make sure you hang around, because the band's going to be back here in about half an hour signing all the shirts that are sold. And, get out there, get in front of people. And here's what happens when you do on location type events like that. More than someone, a handful of people are going to say, hey, do you guys, is this all you do, or do you do custom printing? because my business, I'm a plumber, I'm an electrician, I have a retail store
Yeah.
in Rockwall. And so what you're really doing is passing out business cards, or I don't know, if you're under 30, they're scanning your QR code. but you get
Always
out
have
there.
both, by the way.
You would say it again?
I said always have both, by the way. Just
Yeah.
saying.
but if you get out in front of people, and maybe you have a spring festival in your town,
Yeah.
well, go set up. If for I'll use the example of a screen printer. When anybody ever walked into my shop, because Aaron, when I first started out, I had my shop was kind of out in the suburbs, and so I rented space in a store where you could come in and order t-shirts. Nobody wanted to order t-shirts there. They wanted to come out where my shop was because they wanted to see what I was doing. And and I had a counter set up. Everybody that walked in walked right around that counter and walked back to the machines and said, "I've never seen this done before. Could I print one? Could I pull the squeegee?" Sure, absolutely. And let them print a shirt. And so people are really enthralled of what we do. No matter how you decorate, people are just want to stand and watch it. They're just so intrigued by it. And please don't tell me that you don't want them to see it because you don't want them to be in competition with you. Because if just them buying equipment impacts your business, you're doing something wrong. So
Yeah.
there's plenty of business to go around, but get out there in front of people. I love Ramona's idea, and I just built on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Ramona also shared, and remember to diversify. If you're a one-hit product, you are closing your doors to new buyers, right? And I think that's really good advice. What I would caution people to is that don't take that as I got to go buy every single piece of equipment, but understand that you solve a problem for your customers, or you provide a service to your customers that doesn't necessarily mean one single thing. Right? Like, are there ways that you can help facilitate or contract, or, buying transfers? I think sometimes decorators, we love the creativity of it, and we find ourselves really kind of digging into this idea, like I have to have every shiny object. And now you've got more lease payments to make. Now you got a bigger nut to fill, so to speak, to shove in there. And so, yeah, I think that's a really good idea, Ramona. But don't take that as you got to have every piece of equipment.
Take a bite at a time. And Aaron, you and I both experienced this, where somebody goes, "Yeah, I'm here at the show. I just bought some screen printing equipment over at Workhorse, and I bought an embroidery machine over at ZSK, and I bought a sublimation printer from Condi, and I'm sorry, did you bought all those things today?"
Yeah.
Do you have any experience with any of this equipment? No, but I'm a fast learner, I'm like discouraging them from buying. Well, and I want a direct to garment printer. And are you sure? Are you sure that you want to do all these things at one time? And
Is that when you go, oh, but they seemed really smart with the credit card in their hand?
Exactly. I was about to say, I did not refuse their credit cards, but I warned them. That's a lot to take on. It's a lot to learn all these things at one time.
Yeah.
And invariably, you'll see a year or two later, that person will come by your booth and say, "Hey, I'm about ready to get this DTG printer going." And when did you buy that? 2 years ago. But I've been so busy learning how to embroider. I've been so busy learning how to screen print. And man, it's hard. There's a big curve to it. And I said, "Yeah, I told you 2 years ago that it takes about 3 years to be an expert screen printer." And yeah, you were right.
Yeah.
I had somebody call me up one time and ask me if they could renew their warranty on their DTG machine. That was back in US Screen Days. And I'm like, "Well, yeah, absolutely. Are you having an issue?" "No, I haven't actually used it yet." And I'm like, you spent $16,000 a year ago and you haven't used it yet?" "Yeah, it's still in the box. I've been working on some other projects." "Okay, well, you apparently have more money than me that you could spend $16,000 and never take the machine out of the box."
Absolutely. All right. We'll get a couple more quick comments here But Terry, are you around next week? Are you
Yes.
going to Atlantic City?
I am not. We have a booth there, but we're
You're not.
finally
Okay.
being really smart and just having the East Coast people work that. And then the week after, or 2 weeks after, I'm going to be at the
DTF Expo.
DTF Expo here in Phoenix, and it's just going to be the West Coast folks there.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to do like we ask you guys to do. I'm going to go over to calendly.com/2 regular guys. And next week we will do part 2 because we actually have a still quite a bit to share here. Like,
Yeah,
know we
our
spent a lot of time-
outline has a lot of points, and we did 2 of them.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So we're gonna really officially turn the corner next week, and we're gonna talk all about the solutions to this, how to stay strong and create more market share and
Was this the one
positioning.
story I did when I said I just have one story? Was that it? That was
Could have
probably
been.
it.
That was probably it. No, I mean I had nothing to do with that, Terry. I can going off on a tangent on pricing. I don't know, wherever, right? So, anyhow, so next week we will be endeavoring to finish this up, wrap this up. So we'll talk about staying strong and creating more market share, positioning your business for long-term success, and just trying to give some takeaways. And obviously, any takeaways that you guys have from all this, we'd love to hear that. You know, what can you guys do? What can listeners do right away? But I did, like I said, want to get a couple more comments before we get out of the way for the sauce here. Doug Sobel says, Photo Club had hat made and I showed up with my own, which was way better quality. I took a photo and will use it to point out my quality compared to others. Just need to convey the value of your work, right? That's perfect, Doug. That last idea there. Just need to convey the value of your work, right? And coming up with creative solutions for doing that, just like Doug did there. And then Eric reminded you that we did talk about it on the show. Remember, on-site activations. So that must have been last week. I haven't had a chance to watch that episode yet, so it's on my. Well,
It was gold.
need
You need to go back. It was gold.
well, when I go and edit the podcast to put it online, I get to listen to it also.
You get a message where you go silver at best, man.
That's right. Eric was 5-star. Terry, you were just kidding.
You were Terry.
5-star quality, 1-star price. Is that what we said in the comments there? All right. And then Ramona says, that's me. Run out and buy the equipment, giggles, and then determine it's not for me. Right. But there's nothing. And let me be really clear. I'm not talking down to anybody that's done that. I've got equipment that's sitting over here, right? I've done that myself. It's just part of it. But in what Ramona's talking about here is actually perfect, right? She realized it's not for me. And she didn't force it and went from there. So I think that's really good point. All right, Terry, we good for
yeah, absolutely.
I'm going over right now, or as soon as we get done, calendly.com/2 regular guys. If you guys have a show idea, somebody wants to be on the show with us, please get over there. We are looking for more guests right now. So we're going to get more active in that. Thank you, Eric.
It feels like everybody that we're talking to be guests is, I want to be on the show again. I'm really tied up for the next 3 weeks, So
yeah,
we're
exactly.
seeing a lot of that these days.
all the justifications we talked about at the top of the show, right? Anyhow, all right. Well, Terry, what do you got coming up here?
Well, as I mentioned before, I'll be at the Equipment Zone booth at the DTF Expo. It's the second year. Last year, I just walked around the show here in Phoenix, but it was super busy and a lot of cool things going on. Adrian Palmer, who does the news for us from DTF Printing, is kind of ramrodding this thing. So it's going to be a great event. That's April 1st and 2nd. My complete screen printing business course, my next class with available space at Atlas Screen Supply in Chicago, Schiller Park, will be June 7th and 8th. And watch for all of my upcoming events at terrycombs.com. How about you, Aaron?
So later today, in about an hour or so here, I will be speaking at the Entrepreneur 8. It's the last summit. Today's Pi Day. So my presentation is all Star Wars based. I'm really excited about it. Actually, we'll see how I do. I'm not a super Star Wars geek, but the more I've been kind of digging into it, the more I'm like, oh man, there's some cool stuff here. And I always enjoyed the show. So we're gonna do that. Today, my session is called Harnessing the Force of Your Business Vision, Wielding Your Business Plan Like a Lightsaber. And there is still time to register for that, and it's totally free. So if you'll go over to the link that Eric has put in the comments there, you can sign up for that. And then the same group that is hosting that event has got another event next week. This guy just cranks out the events, these summits online, and they're fantastic. They're little 15-minute sessions with lots of great interaction. So wonderful opportunities to grow and learn. But next week, they've got the Business Growth for Good Summit on March 20th. And my session is going to be how to master pricing for profit and helping make sure your prices actually support your business growth, right? What we talked about a little earlier today, Terry. Right. And the last thing I wanted to share is I just want to encourage people to go over and get into our Facebook group, Entrepreneur Success Hub. And even if you're already a member, still go to osg.link/group and get active in there. I'm setting up all sorts of great conversations, from discussions about abundance, overcoming what's holding us back as entrepreneurs, gratitude. Anything you guys want to talk about is open game. But if you guys let me continue to drive the conversation, which I'm totally fine with, it will be mindset related because I love that stuff. And anyhow, jump in there, comment on a post, start your own post. I do truly believe that a rising tide lifts all boats, but we can't be part of that rising tide unless we're actually in it. We can't be on the dock watching. We have to dive in. So come see me over there. And then for Eric, coming up here is today, this afternoon, take up episode 217, Coordinate, Don't Replicate, art alterations. I was reading ahead, art alterations and customer communication. So in this episode, he's going to answer viewer questions about overly detailed designs and discuss some of the ways that he's approached the discussion when recommending altered art to customers, as well as discuss real instances where he's recommended changes. So always high, master's degree level conversation over there with Eric, and such great information. With what I love about Eric is he's got all of this real world experience that can translate into his thoughts about this stuff. So tune in. You can join him at 2:30 Mountain Time today. And we won't get into that discussion, Terry, about what Mountain Time. 2:30 Mountain Time, and just ask questions and share your insights. So you can check it out at ericcampbell.com. And then click the Take Up tab at the top to find the shows. And you can also see all of his past 216 episodes as well. Some amazing free content in there for you. If you're an embroiderer or somebody in the garment decorating space, you need to make sure that you've like, subscribe, smash the buttons, all the things that the kids say these days. So, all right. Well, Terry, should we dive into the secret sauce here?
Yeah, looking forward to Eric sharing some secret sauce.
All right, let's do it. All right, I'm coming back, Eric. For some reason, we were not hearing you, and so we can. Yeah, he's muted there. Okay, we're good. Whenever you're ready to come back, Eric. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in there.
Like digitizers starting out and digitizing lettering, sometimes we all have technical problems. Suffice it to say, today I have, for the secret sauce, 5 simple tips for digitizing lettering. As simple as it might seem, lettering can cause a lot of consternation for digitizers when they first start their craft. Though most software packages bundle in a host of fonts or have many available for purchase, commercial embroidery, especially business to business, means you're going to be recreating custom logo types, and you're going to have to draw letter shapes from objects yourself. Nothing looks worse than a logo that looks like a knockoff because you used a close enough font. Moreover, even when you have a stock typeface that you know of with an open type font in hand, allowing for automatic auto-digitizing conversions sometimes means that the lettering comes out strange or has different quality issues or substandard stitch quality. As such, if we want to ensure fidelity, we're often going to digitize ourselves. But with that in mind, let's go ahead and talk about 5 things we can do to kind of keep our digitizing looking its best and trying to certainly make it look the way it should look for all of us. So with these 5 simple tips. The first one is we should really keep scale in mind. Now, apparently still having some difficulties here, but that's fine. Suffice it to say, we keep scale in mind. We should really think about the fact that the thinnest satin stitch made with 40 weight thread that we can rely upon is generally about 1 millimeter wide. This is 40 weight thread, the standard for embroidery, 7511 needles. The thinnest gap between satins or loop encircled by satins must be around 8.8 to 1 millimeter in width to being open and clear. It means that the smallest reliable letter for most materials is going to be about 5 millimeters tall. And honestly, this is what it looks like. We have a stack. If you look like a letter E, its stack of 5 rows of satins and gaps will give us this kind of setup without alteration. Envision those horizontal strokes in the letter E, and you'll see we have a satin, a gap, a satin, a gap, and a satin. We know that that is going to give us that 5 millimeters, and that's fairly standard. So, when we're dealing with this, you can sometimes do things with like 60 weight threads. Thinner threads can help. 60 weight threads, a 65.9 needle, it's going to give you about 25% smaller text. It's not going to remove this problem entirely, and that is only where garment texture allows. Just remember to increase density where needed, and certainly that you want to think about the physicality of the thread when we're starting to make these plans. All right. Secondarily, we want to think in strokes. If you find yourself having difficulty kind of deciding where to split letters about or how to overlap strokes, certainly one of the best things we can do is think of it kind of calligraphically. A calligraphy pen, when you're drawing calligraphy, maybe watch some calligraphy videos, you'll see that people take one stroke at a time and draw letters individually. Well, when we do that, we can break up those satin stitches in a similar way with most letters. If you think of your satin stitch as a wide pen, which is similar to what it is when we draw these things with these straight lines that are stitches, it can help us to kind of understand the way things are constructed. And as we see, even with standard lettering, you can have very similar shapes as we see in the strokes in calligraphy. Here we're separating these strokes. You'll often compromise efficiency sometimes where you have to get things to layer just right, but thinking calligraphically like this in strokes can help you figure out where you're going to break letters apart. Third, we want to analyze overlaps. Now, honestly, this is something where sometimes it is a choice that can be artistic, but we have a lot of difficulty choosing where two satin strokes come together in a corner or a junction. Knowing the kinds of junctions you can create and their qualities can help with the best decisions. For small lettering, a cap can be created. A new single satin stitch object covers the area where two strokes come together. It's great for reducing excess density, but for really large lettering, sometimes the stitches can get too long when we cover both strokes with that one satin stitch. An overlap corner, instead, where we overlap both strokes entirely, can be better for those larger letters, but we can sometimes see on small letters it builds up excess density. And then there's a mitered corner where we have two narrowing satin stitches going over the top of each other, and those create a sharper point, but sometimes we get excess density or we get very small stitches when lettering is too small. So we really need to think about the fact that these things differ and can change the way that we have that look. So junctions, capped and lapped, can be different for different sizes. We can see that those lapped junctions get too large sometimes, the full overlaps and the full caps, and sometimes we can have that excess density buildup. And with mitering, you'll see that sometimes at small sizes, you get really small points as we miter out into those corners. So think about the size, the scale again, and what we have to do with density to make this work. Next, we have selecting the right serifs. Serifs can either be integral, part of the individual stroke, or separated from the strokes. When they're simply a part of the stroke brought to a flared end, a fine line serif can be achieved, but with large text, those stitches can become overly long and sometimes can even be filtered out by your machine or run incredibly slow, even if they aren't. With larger text, a satin with the same column where we don't split and turn that satin off to the side as its own object can be much too long in that larger satin stitches. Remember, though, as we go smaller, we need to have that about millimeter column to make a satin stitch run, so we know that can also be an issue. But as I said previously, if you look at a large continuous column as we have in this existence here, you see how we get these dotted lines at the bottom? It turns out that when we get too large, this is too long for your machine to stitch and they will be filtered out. Instead, you want something like we have in this other block on the side with this separated satin stitch column when we get out to those larger sizes. Continuous serifs like this on the left, great for really small text. Just make sure you're watching your distortion. Once again, we have to think about the physicality of what this is. And last but not least, we want to deal with distortion. Being very clean-edged and geometric typefaces overly show the natural distortion present in embroidery. Push distortion makes columns get longer, taller. We have a vertical column here. It's always going to get taller. And pull distortion is always going to make that satin column get narrower. So it means not only do we have to compensate to make individual letters stitch correctly, but our compensation has to account for these disparate forces so the lettering can kind of meet in the middle at the proper baseline or vertical lines. It's something you've seen me talk about before if you've ever seen me talk about embroidery, because it's the top problem people have in making their embroidery look the way they want it to. Not understanding these stitches are intention. Also, when you have round letters like O's, G's, and S's, even in a true type font in print, they're always a little taller and drop a little below the baseline with lettering for optical balance, because our eyes see those rounded edges dropping away as something that's shorter. Unfortunately, this is just something we have to deal with. And the reality is, if you want lettering to look nice and clean with a top and bottom line like you see in the top of this stitching, on screen it's going to have to look very tall and narrow and strange and wide and not the right shapes, because the distortion is natural in the embroidery, and that is constantly going to happen. The screen is lying to you. If you want perfection on the machine, you have to have the proper kind of distortion on screen. And as I said previously, it is all about managing that push and pull compensation and understanding stitches under tension are always going to get narrower, and they're always going to push out toward those open ends. Now, certainly, this is not all that you have to do to get your lettering stitched correctly. This is not all there is to interpreting lettering. However, these foundational examples of how to create satin stitch lettering paired with some of observation of existing lettering and some well-made keyboard fonts can really help you take on custom type with quite a bit more confidence. Get out there, grab your favorite logo, do something as a self-directed project, and try this out. But most importantly, remember, the produce of the digitizer is not the file, it's the embroidery. Get it on the machine. And that is my secret sauce.
All right. Well, Eric, thank you very much. Great job as usual there. And what I'm hearing, Terry, is it's all about balance, push and pull, right?
Exactly. I want to share with our podcast listeners, make sure you go take a look at that. You can just go to YouTube and look up Secret Sauce. And once it's up, and because Eric had a lot of great illustrations to show what he was discussing here. So
yeah, good point.
Worth the trip to YouTube to take a peek at that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll be working on getting those up here soon. But yeah, great stuff over there, and go check that out. Thank you for that reminder, Terry. All right. Well, Terry, we've come to the close of another show. I want to thank you. Great information, great stuff to share with the regulators. And then also thanks to the regulators that were here, those of you that participated in the comments today. Really awesome stuff. Ramona gets the 5-star high fiver there, and Doug and everybody else that participated in the comments today. Appreciate you guys being there.
All right. We also want to thank our show producer, Eric Campbell, for all that he does and jumping in and doing the secret sauce as well. And over the last month, co-hosting as well for a couple of times. So
awesome. Yeah. Appreciate him covering for me and all the great work that he does. I know that he likes to beat himself up, but perfect in every way. Eric, you're the man. Thank you. And next week, I've already done it. I went over to calendly.com/2 regular guys. So part 2 of today's show with the solutions will be there. So a little cliffhanger for you, but can't wait to get back together with Terry next week and wrap this show up.
Absolutely. Until then, I'm Terry Combs. He's Aaron Montgomery.
And that was the 2 regular guys.
Here we go. We're out.
Awesome.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of 2 Regular Guys. We're here because of listeners like you, and we're so grateful to have you on this journey with us. For more valuable insight, be sure to visit our website, 2regularguys.com, and join the conversation on our Facebook page. And hey, if you or someone you know has expertise, a unique perspective, or a story worth sharing, we'd love to have them as a guest on the show. Just reach out. Remember, success in this industry isn't just about the equipment you own or the techniques you've mastered. It's about the mindset you bring and the connections you build. Keep learning, stay curious, and don't be afraid to think differently. Keep pressing on, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Two Regular Guys.